very rude here. I thought Tom was going to say
All right.
I shall come and introduce you.
Nobody introduced you to the kids.
This is David Featonby. David worked as an IoP coordinator, among many, many other things, for a very, very long time. He was one of the originals. And David is very, very practical. I'm quite practical. David's very practical. And he's going to show you some fun things you can do with tops. And remembering, of course, that circular motion is going to play a big part in the new advanced hire as it had in the last one, but actually even more so.
Okay, right, well, thank you, and thanks Rona for inviting me. I read Tom's little piece that he put out about this talk. It read like an obituary that this would be the last time that you will ever see David Featonby again, and so on and so forth. I took a bit of a gamble preparing things on tops. I wrote an article about a year ago in Physics Education, and it was a very surfacey sort of skimming the surface about tops, very much more linked with toys and tops and so on. And once you've had an article published about something, people think you're a world expert on it, which is actually not true. Once I had that article published, I really began researching into what you could do with tops. And I'm still discovering new things. They're the most amazing things. So this is just my little journey for you through tops. Taking a look over my shoulder at what might be on syllabuses, because there are many ways in which you can use tops, which are a fascination to most people, but of course they don't appear as such on syllabuses. So what we're going to do, a little bit of background, and then we'll look at different ways of starting tops, which is quite ingenious. You can do a whole project on these sort of things. Have at the back of your mind what you might do in the last week of the summer term with children. And there are several doors that could open in tops. So we look at types of tops, starting tops. We look at one or two properties of tops that make them useful in just the run-of-the-mill teaching as we go through teaching about friction and energy and so on. We'll have a look at perpetual tops, which of course don't really exist, but we call them perpetual tops. We'll look a little bit at angular momentum. Depending on how much time we've got, and I'll rely on people to start shuffling when we get to the end, we can look at a bit on precession and tibbies. That's going far beyond what will be on the syllabuses, but there's so many interesting things that you can do with that, the way that tops actually works. And then I've got some special tops, rattlebacks, Euler's disc. I think the idea is that I'll finish, you'll go off and do some hard intellectual work, and then when you come for your coffee, I'll have taken several of these things upstairs, and you can actually have a play with them yourselves. The floor, this isn't such a very good floor for throwing tops around, but it looks very good upstairs. So we start with tops. I mean, what is a top, you might say? Without going into a lot of detail, anything that spins around its major axis. So you might call the sycamore seed a top, but a shell, an acorn, you can make those spin if you get the right shape and they're sort of symmetrical enough. Here's a one, this is interesting. If you picked that up in the street, you'd probably put it in the bin. It actually is a 4,000-year-old top from Egypt, which is in the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford. If you ever get a chance to go to the Pitt Rivers Museum, it's behind the Natural History Museum, free to get in, but not many people know that it's there. A wonderful museum of all sorts of artifacts and things. Here's part of their tops cabinet. I went a couple of Christmases ago when the bad snow was on, if you remember, about 2 years ago, and everywhere was snow. They were actually shutting the museum early, and somebody said there's a lovely display of tops. So I sort of got in about 10 minutes before they were going to close, and got this lady to show me where the tops were. And really, I actually was quite excited. I was very excited. With snap, snap, snap. But in there, you can see there are lots of different. There's throwing tops. There are spinning tops. There's a rattleback, if you know what one of those are. I'll tell you later. at the very top, that flat looking thing, this shape at the top. And that was just part of the display, and there was tops from all the continents. There were tops from, you know, the middle of Africa where they used seeds and spindles through seeds and all sorts. So it really was quite interesting. Then I went to Copenhagen and found these tops, you know, a bit more Victorian type tops in the museums, and this was one of the standard toys that everybody had. Whipping tops, you've seen. These are some from what I have in the loft that come out from time to time. Or you could, as a project, look at making some tops. Now the top ones there are made from bottle tops. These things with just a toothpick through them. The bottom one is a CD disc with a penny through that you can twist and it will spin. And these ones, Takeo Saki, I think is a Japanese gentleman, and he researched this in great detail and proved and reckoned that if you could make the angle about 1 radian that you leave gap in the paperclip, you could bend the paperclip and make it into a top, something like that. And that's just a piece of copper wire. They're quite difficult to spin, but actually the critical thing, the mistake that I made with this copper was just snipping it. The shape of the bottom is quite critical. If you want them to go really well, just sort of scrape the bottom on a bit of sandpaper and get it fairly rounded. That becomes very important with regard to tops. If you want to go in from a different angle, what about literature? If you're interested in history and literature, the classical literature has references to tops. I like the one at the top from Homer about the fall of Troy. Troy was reeling like a top, staggering on its last turning. So that's, a lot of years ago, people had tops. Shakespeare, there's several references. A lady called Valerie Oliver in America has written a history of tops, and she's got all these quotations detailed. So, you know, I'm just thinking of picking people's interests. If you want to go in from the literature point of view, you can. Some children will probably like researching the literature side of things. It's always a bit of a problem with the art class. In the last years of teaching, my school for some reason decided to split year 10s, that's the 14-year-olds in England, split them up into an art side and a science side, you know, bang down the middle. And I sadly had the arts group, and I tried ever so hard to interest them, you know, but they just didn't seem to be interested in the science. They were more interested in other things, whereas my colleague had this science group which were absolutely lovely. They did all sorts of things. They were into the Duke of Edinburgh Awards and things like that. But this arts group, I just battled and battled away. And I don't think, I left actually before they got to choose their sixth form subject. I think 1 or 2 actually did go to science, but that was all. So that's another way in. Now you're looking, I know, for your hires and so on, at rotation. Obviously rotation plays a big part in what you do with tops. So many lovely illustrations. Rotation went out of the English syllabus. It's sort of creeping its way back, thankfully, but you know, rotation is so much everywhere, and yet people don't quite appreciate it. I sometimes wondered whether the tops idea wasn't popular because either it was too babyish, because you know, children have the first toy that a child has, because unlike a ball, the top doesn't run away, it stays where it is. Is it too babyish, or is it just too complicated? Because circular motion brings into all sorts of angles and so on and so forth. So, just for a bit of fun, 2 of my favourite experiments on circular motion, just to show how big the force is. People don't realise. It's an ordinary tennis ball. It's not full of water, it's just an ordinary light tennis ball. But this is full of water. Okay? 4 pints, 2 and a bit litres of water. Really, I mean, just sort of verify, yes, that's very heavy. This is just a light tennis ball. And yet, when rotating, the tennis ball will hold up the water. So the small mass rotating produces an enormous force. bit surprising. You might have, I'm sure you've got your own favourite illustration of circular motion. I do like getting the bucket of water and twirling it around. This is why I wanted people in the front row, twirling it around my head, and the water doesn't come up. But you can go quite slowly, very slowly in fact, and very little comes out. So that's it, you know, it's another illustration of the size. We haven't got a paper cup. A bit of modification on that. We usually do this with a paper cup. I saw somebody break one of these, one of the technicians, so if I break it, you know, that's just 2 for the day. So no sellotape, no glue tack. Whiskey it could be, yes, you could pretend it's whiskey, couldn't you? So will this go around my head quite easily? It's not hard to do. The hard thing is stopping at the end. Okay? The hard thing is stopping, so it will go around quite easily, and then you've just got to stop it. Right? Those are things that the kids can do. You know, I mean, I was using a paper cup to start with that one. But there are all sorts of different circular motion experiments which show that. That's really just an indulgence. And then you come on to the tops. Now, if you buy a top in town, you will find that the box that has it on it will, without any doubt, have some sort of superlative on it. This one, if you click on, the amazing non-stop top defies gravity, it does say it seems to defy physics. And yet, top stuff, we can understand a lot of what tops are. But because of this way their tops are dressed up, tops are fascinating. And all ages are fascinated by tops. Little, you know how old these are my grandchildren. That's no relation to Pauline and Bo. But any age is fascinated by tops. Spin a top and people will look at it. Little ones will look at it, older ones will look at it. People will sort of be amazed at the way a top wobbles or does different things. What an opportunity for us as teachers. Here is something that is fascinating before we start. So let's use that. Let's not shy away. Within a top, there are different designs, but the distribution of mass is important. I haven't brought this. You must have the Marvin and Milo cartoon. This one with the stick, where the position of the ball of plasticine on the stick determines how easily you can balance it. And surprisingly, when the plasticine is far away, that's the easy one to balance, because you need a lot more energy to move the plasticine when it's far away from the pivot. Pasco produced some rods with masses distributed in different positions, and actually they feel as if they're a different weight when you hold them, because there's a turning effect of the outside masses. And this came across at Science on Stage. I think Stuart Farmer had it had them at Crieff. Easy to make. CDs, old CDs, all these CDs that you don't want to, that you get free with IoP and you don't want to use or whatever. And boards. So you can buy this sort of thing for £100, or you can make it for less than a £5. The boards are, in this case, distributed away from the centre. In this one, are near the centre, right? So if we drop them both, we're going to hold the string. In fact, you're going to hold the string, sir. You stand up, please. It's not a plant. It's like sitting at the front. So if you hold, keep it fairly high because we don't want to hit the ground. I have broken several of these. If you hold that with your hand, right, and then I'll hold the other one. Okay, and we'll get them about. So now, which one is going to go down fastest? This one, because you need less energy in the rotation. So we'll just go, and don't worry if it breaks. 3 to 1 go. 3, 2, 1 go. You might write down the bottom straight away, and that takes a long time. You could make a lot of these. You could do lots of things with these. roll them down inclines and so on. It's this position, the distribution of the mass, that becomes important, which, well, 20 years ago we called that moment of inertia. Is moment of inertia back in your syllabus? So that's a nice little one to do. Okay, I keep getting distracted about intercircular motion, because I just love the calculations of circular motion, cars going over bumpy back bridges and when they take off and this sort of thing. And how fast you have to rotate your bicycle wheel before the tyre clears. I can remember doing that one in the 6th form. Okay, so the distribution of mass is important. So if you look at these tops, which are probably a little more expensive than your average £2 one at the National Trust shop type of thing, the mass is distributed so that they swash as much out to the side as possible. These ones have a band, a heavy band around the outside, and this one again, the weight of the top is furthest away. So this one supposedly will spin for a few minutes, because once you get it going, there's a lot of energy, a lot of angular momentum at the outside. If you click on to the next one, we move on. Really, we're starting the talk now about tops. You probably haven't thought of the different ways of starting a top. Okay, the twirler, which is, that's your National Trust one, just spin it. The smaller the spindle, it's quite an interesting sort of angle you can take on. The smaller the spindle, the faster you can actually spin the top, and they spin for quite a while. The thrown top, where you have some string around and throw it, it's not a very, we'll do some of these upstairs. You throw them, and as the string unravels, it spins the top. That's the way, and that's one of the ways to start a whipping top. You wrap the cord around the top, and then you basically throw it onto the floor, and with a bit of luck, it'll spin. Right, nice hard floor. This isn't a particularly good one. Or the supported top, where you have a support, some string, and pull it, and off it goes. Or the standard, that's still going though, the children's top, the pumped one, which often it's the inside, often the bottom doesn't actually, on this one that's on the diagram, it's got a rubber sucker on the bottom, so this bottom stays still, which is an interesting point that we'll come on to. There's also the tops. As soon as, it's just so annoying, as soon as there's any electronics around, it becomes magic. Have you noticed that? Anything with electronics in is magic. And you get your kids, get your youngsters to say, whenever somebody says it's magic, say it's not magic, it's science. Science you don't see. That's all really magic was, is the deceitful magic. But the other magic is science you don't see. The mirror that you don't see is there, or the electronics that you don't see. But these are described as, why on earth this is called a neutron stud. So there's a battery in here, connections made there to a motor inside. And when you put it on, there's a magnet that will give you better contact.
You need to be further back in the light.
Right, there in the light. And we can get it spinning. So that's electronically starting. Or this one. The box of this is very interesting. It says, amazing magic, da-di-da-di-da, starts automatically. That actually means starts automatically when you switch it on. So there's an internal one. An internal sort of gyro there. And it's got to have all these sort of swings and bells and whatever, but it's just the same principle. You're putting some energy in and getting it to start. But there's this one. You start by blowing a gyroscope inside. so on and so on. There's probably loads of others. Now, one interesting thing about tops is the bottom of the top, right? I don't know if you've ever looked at the bottom of the top and thought about it, but tops behave very differently if they've got a round bottom or a pointy bottom. Or in fact, a bottom that doesn't move at all. A rounded bottom, like this one, or this one on here, in fact most of the tops here have slightly rounded bottoms. A rounded bottom introduces friction into the system. Right? Now just hold that in your mind, because that then means that the top behaves quite differently. In addition to all the other couples and so on that are moving, there's a frictional couple which will do things like lose energy, change angular momentum, and so on. Okay, next. A gyroscope, the friction is on the point of the bearings, but that doesn't, and even though the top's whirling around, that doesn't actually slide over the surface, whereas a round bottom top, the bottom will slide. Okay, so we start with the basic, hello? The basic twirly top, which is here. Yes, this is the famous top on that side. And even with an ordinary cheap, £5 top, a top will spin for a fairly long time. This top here, if you can see it, is again in the pit residue. Now I don't really believe this, but the notice says, so it must be true, and it's Oxford, so it must definitely be true. This top is allegedly spun for 24 hours. That's what that notice says, that you can't read from Africa or somewhere. It's very heavy lead. I suppose it took quite a bit of starting. But tops do spin for a long time. They keep going. As I said, this one is made to spin, and you can adjust the balance and so on, and get it to spin for a long time. To get tops to spin for a long time, they need to be very well balanced. One of the main losses of energies of a top, certainly with a point, is a bit of wobble that comes about because of imperfections in the symmetry of the top. But these ones, from a company called Spintastics in America, it will spin for quite a while. Just leave it there. You can see how long it'll spin. Quite a fascination to do that. The only thing that is actually stopping that, if it's a point on the bottom, is some kind of air resistance, but it's not moving through the air resistance, it's more of a drag air resistance, because it's not pushing through like the girl on the back of the motorbike with her hair flowing free. It's actually moving in the same, more or less the same position. One thing that I quite like to do with children, we'll do this now, if you'd like to get them all the treats. There we are. One thing is to have, if I do quizzes and things, we can do it along the front row, is to have a competition to see how long a pound at Asda after Christmas, the plates, very useful for. But has everybody got a top? We've all got the same top now. So you just, not upside down, we'll come to that later. the point on the bottom, and you'd spin them, and these will go over a minute quite easily. You keep your tray flat. Ready, steady, go. And we'll see who's, well, yellow's failed already, but never mind, there's always somebody. It's your fingers, I think. Quite fascinating though, really, just to watch, isn't it? And think it's just going and going and going. So tops spin for a long time, so we can talk about friction, the lack of friction. We go to great lengths to get frictionless motion in a straight line, and it's over in a flash. But these ones, even the gentleman that couldn't spin it at the beginning, his is still going, just about, before it starts slowing. These ones are still going. No sign of them slowing down. sometimes when I've had sort of groups of children at tables doing competitions, we finish with this as the tiebreaker. And they get really, really excited and involved with watching. Oh, this is, oh, you can hear the gaps even of these mature people.
Mature?
The green and the yellow, the green, I think the green's going with the reds, unless it's had, red's had 3 spins.
You're going to get it.
Oh, the green's gone.
Oh, well then.
Thank you.
Must be so close.
It was close, so you know, but that's just making the point, you know, of if you don't have something to stop something, it'll keep going. Right, and it also makes the point that no matter what group of people you have, someone will cheat. The fact that you can actually do this, and tops will keep going for a long time, maybe a bit lower down the school, you can actually put patterns on tops and let the tops spin. You can do a Newton's disc to produce the colours, but you know, it's I never quite like it. It always seem to be all the colours produce grey. But of course there's computer simulations of that. And these, the Feshner and Benham discs, if we go to...
You want the hyperlink?
Yeah, hyperlink. Do you know what these produce? Now, not everybody will see this, sorry. My wife didn't see it in bed last night when we were going through this.
Too much information.
Oh, you've gone... I think you've gone past go back.
I have. I'm trying to go back, but it's not doing it.
Ah, what a pity. Get you...
It's stuck. Go down to previous. Previous. And previous again.
Previous.
There you are.
And then, oh,
No, it's done it again.
previous.
And then onto your hyperlink. There you are.
Right, so if you take these discs, these shapes, you produce colour. Now, can you just...
I've got the same problem that I had yesterday.
get rid of your wireless thing? Just go down to where the rotational speed is.
I can't. It won't move. This is what happened yesterday, and I can't move it at all. There. Is that what you want?
No, it's just
And more than you will.
Come on.
Minimize it.
Let's just try a different one. The speed we can adjust. Does anybody know how to get rid of this top? We can get down to the bottom.
Can you not?
Oh.
It's lower.
That's
That's
it, that's it, there we go.
That's it.
Okay, we'll do it on that one.
Right, okay.
Right, so we're going to increase the speed, and it's actually happening when on your retina this, it's not happening on the screen. Now, can you see colours beginning to appear? I can see the middle ones. Do you feel there's a bit of colour there? Some people say yes if you do. Nobody does that. Green, hooray, somebody says green. Some people won't be able to see that at all, it'll just look like grey. Try a different one out.
Step forward.
That's the same one, isn't it?
Bottom one.
There. Now I can see blue on that one.
And it's retention of vision and what's happening to your logic core in your eye, but you don't react instantaneously.
Green.
And some people never see that.
It's just black and white.
It maybe doesn't work quite as well with such an enormous screen. But let's click on because we'll... but if you look up Feshner and Benham, there's loads of stuff on the internet that can get those pictures. Right. See if we can we move on now? Right. So then we come to the idea of a perpetual top. Now, these tops here are marketed as perpetual tops. These amazing things. What they have, this little one you may have seen, which is Education Innovations and Grand Illusions have this, Grand Illusion in the UK, where Grand Illusion seems to put such a top up on the price that you probably can get them cheaper on Amazon or somewhere. It's got a little vibrator inside, like a phone vibrator, so it gives the top a push every rotation. You can't really feel the vibration, but once it's going, it'll keep going. This one is the same from Hawkin. If you just spin it without the battery, it'll spin and die down, but you can feel the vibration there. And this one, the vibration is enough to keep it going. They're called magic perpetual tops. All that's happening is every revolution or so, it's putting in a little bit of extra energy to compensate. Now I maintain that's no different to an ordinary whipping top, because all you do with a whipping top is every now and then give it a bit of extra energy. Whack, 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 and it keeps going. So you might as well call a grandfather clock a perpetual clock. 8 days is a long time in a small child's life, I suppose, so it is a perpetual clock. But the weights, every tick-tock, put in a teeny bit of energy to compensate for the loss. We've got another competition coming up. You might as well call these perpetual tops. These are from a guy who's retired now. He's sold all his stock. But at the top, we spin it. Never do this one. And you, believe it or not, you get nervous when you're doing these things. So you get the top. And see where I'm putting the energy in, just sliding it down the hill every time. So I'm just putting a little bit of energy in each time. You probably can do that with these spinning tops as well. Of course, they stay very stable. Throw them up, we can throw them from one person to another. So, and it says on the back the world record's 2 hours and 52 minutes, 11 seconds, which probably the guy died of boredom at the end. And those are called top gnosis. You can try those. Or these aren't really a top. Have you seen these where I can get them started. There, I've got one going. So it keeps going because I'm providing the energy by sort of dragging it up. There's all sorts of things going on there, but if you're really clever, you can get all 5 of the rings going, and they just keep going and going because you're lifting them up, providing a little bit more energy to compensate for the energy that's lost. Now, this front row are having a great time actually. The people at the back don't know what's going on. Okay. The interesting thing about these is you spin them upside down, which you try to do. You must know more than I think you know. You must know more than. Right. So, we're beginning to say what makes a good top is one that perhaps spins for a long time, that's symmetrical, so it's got stability, and because then that's all linked with moment of inertia as well. Oh yeah, moment of inertia. We all have done that. We've all talked about the skater, right? Who pulls his or her arms together. This is quite good, but it's ridiculously expensive. And I don't know what's happened to Pasco. They've sort of had great turmoil, so they lent me this, and still got it. But it's good because, if you do this experiment, little boy in the village, Matthew, we did it on a flat platform. Seen somebody make one of these with a skateboard underneath. Took the wheels and so on off a skateboard and made just a board. But you can get these rotating platforms for 30 or 40 quid And this is about 300 or so. But somebody said, oh, well, you see, the bearings are like the bearings on my bicycle. I would pay £300 for a bicycle wheel now, which, you know, I wouldn't pay £300 for a bicycle. You know. But anyway, the beauty of this is you've got a stool to sit on. So you can hook your legs round so you can actually, you don't fall off when you go faster. And it can go faster and slower. Now I feel that more than you see it. Slow down. But the bearings you can see must be very good. Is anyone try? Somebody try? Before I try. Somebody try? Anyone try? Try it upstairs. We'll put it upstairs. Oh, you want to try? You want to try? You want to try, madam? Right. So it's very good, that, but it's a lot of money. And you know, I mean, I can lend it to people if you want to come down to Castle. And the other nice little one on moment of inertia. Do you do this? This was another Marvin and Milo with keys, which I thought was a bit boring. Cups much better. Paper clip at the end, and you drop it. Now they say over a pencil. I would suggest you do this over a nail, and then the string doesn't slip off. Right? If the string slips forward, it doesn't slip off. We drop the cup, and I'll tell you what happens so you can watch. As this comes down, the string gets shorter. So just like the skater, it starts going faster, it starts rotating faster and wraps round and round and round. And not with a bit of luck, with a bit of physics, there'll be enough friction there to stop it. I always find that fascinating that just 5 turns with a paper clip will hold the cup. So I would let children do this. They do tend to let the nails slip. They don't have enough strength in their fingers. But if you watch, did you guess? 3 to 1. Stop.
Cool.
You should gasp and say, you've seen it before. But that's one of Marvin and Milo's with keys, which nobody would get excited about keys. Even if you took the best china. Yeah, but you don't advise, you're very careful what you say when you say go and do this at home. Right, okay, move on, please. And this sort of moves us on to the idea that this angular momentum, the spin of a top, is something that doesn't like to change. However we want to put it, conservation of angular momentum and so on. It's going to need a strong couple to change it. So these exercise balls, which are quite sophisticated. I don't know if anybody's got one of these exercise balls where you spin them and you rotate them and you really feel the couple. They've got electronic ones which tell you how many times they're going round and all sorts these days. But in order to turn something that is spinning, you need a couple. Now, these are still going. Well, they're perpetual. They're actually going forever until the battery runs out. So we need the couple to change angular momentum, right? And we don't need fancy exercise balls to do that. You just get the electric mixer or the drill or something, and you move the drill around, or anything that's rotating in the house. And you can feel there's almost a mysterious force that comes into being. Right? So, this is I haven't wound this string on. This has got a gyroscope in the middle, and it will roll along. Let's get this string a bit quicker. It will roll along the bench quite happily. But once it's spinning, it won't. Just wind this string on. It's enough. So roll it along the bench, very happy to roll along. But with the gyroscope actually rotating, you put the angular momentum in, and there's nothing that will actually, there's no couple there that will actually change. So it just won't roll. Don't want to roll it off the side, or that would be an expensive trip. Okay, so I mean, you can try to, we know that we need a couple to change the angular momentum. So things
on a
with
slope, if you put it on a slope.
it'll still whirl around. We can try that with the table up. It just won't go. Just resists. I mean, it'll go, but it'll slither down in some random sort of way. We need, if we have something with significant angular momentum, it gives that thing, whatever it is, stability. And you know that rotating, there's all sorts of rotating things. Frisbees, you know, if I just threw something randomly, or little flicky discs, they go much further because they're spinning. And those helicopters have an extra gyro rotor. If you've made the rockets with the Institute of Physics workshop, if your rockets have the fins at an angle, so they spin, that will make them go much further. They have much better stability. You can with an ordinary spinning top, I haven't got the string on this one, but where the base stays still. If you spin the top and hold it, it will actually stay horizontal. And there's no extra tension in the weight, it's the same weight as the top on its own. A chap called Hugh Hunt in Oxford, who showed me this the first time, said he thought every spinning top should have a piece of string in as well, so they could do physics experiments with it. Or there's this sort of famous way of doing, just keep telling people it's how they're coupled. But if we get the angular momentum going in here, and we can move ourselves that way or back, give it a push, stop, and so on. And the angular momentum of the wheel is conserved by the whole stool going in. We can do some interesting things with this once we start thinking of the couple that we put on this. Because the couple that we put on this transfers to that. But basically you can start by doing these wheels with angular momentum. And that's a nice one. But it's another 300 quid for the wheel. I mean, which school has that one? I mean, they might have it in Scotland. We haven't certainly got it in the ordinary schools in England. Now this is where I had a real dilemma as to how far to go here, because really we're getting out of the realm of what you would teach in school, but these things are happening, so you've got to have a sort of idea. Teaching tops, I think, is like peeling an onion. You can start very much on the surface and just talk about energy and so on. You could talk about spin. You then are going another level deeper when you're talking about couples. But remember, all the time we're just really giving a deeper explanation. We're not actually really saying exactly why something's happening. We're just describing how it happens in a more general way. So that if you have something spinning, now we describe this, I'll do this fairly quickly and we can go through it upstairs later if you want to. I'll give you a hard explanation and an easy explanation. If something is spinning, like this top is spinning in a clockwise direction, we describe it by the vector that goes in. Right-hand grip, the vector goes in, as if you're screwing a screw in. So some of the spin axis, and if you apply a couple to the spin, right, you get a resultant couple which is at right angles to the other two. Now what we're familiar with that, with Fleming's law and so on, we do that in physics. We don't understand electricity, remember, anymore because we know Fleming's law, left-hand rule. We're just describing what happens, aren't we? You know, we're just saying it works like fingers. It's nothing to do with fingers, but that's how we're. So all we're doing is giving a description. So if we move on to the next slide, what we call precession, which is where a top, we pretend this is the top so everybody can see, when a top begins to slow down and topple slightly, it precesses around the axis like that. And that precession is caused by the couple of gravity. So in this case, it's the horizontal component of the momentum, which I'm going in that direction because it's going in that direction, it's spinning that way. The couple of the gravity is an anti-clockwise couple. You can click the next, is an anti-clockwise couple, so the second finger, which stands for the couple, is out, and the thumbs up means that you get a precession in that direction. Right? Now, I mean, we could spend the whole time doing this, but I want to get on to a different, we'll just say that's how one of the ways you can describe precession. You can do it with Lagrangian equations, which I never understood at university, but that's just another layer down. It's nothing special. It's just that brainy people who like to use Lagrangian equations can do it using that. And that's how the precession of the gyroscope works. Now, what is really interesting, to me at any rate, a Ptolemy's top, which somebody nicked from my school. And this is a very sad moment, this, and I've never found it again. And this is what it looks like, and it's got the centre of mass below the pivot, and it precesses in the opposite direction. If anybody sees one of those, please get in touch, I'd love it. I'd even pay for it. We'll skip over that. And if they put on it, because it spins a long time, they put these discs in it. What about a normal round bottom top? Now, watch this, and I think you might be a little bit surprised. If I spin this at a bit of an angle, what's going to happen to it? Well, spins off the... So it's at a bit of an angle there. I'll spin this one, bit of an angle. And these tops actually put themselves straight. Big one's just about straight. A little wobble because of imperfections and things, but they're going up straight. And then eventually they'll lose their spin and they'll wobble down. So a pointed top, pure perfectly pointed top, will just precess and eventually fall down. These ones, beautifully straight, they were quite an angle. And how that works is that there's a frictional couple. Now, take it at the level that a round bottom top with a small center, a small curvature at the bottom will put itself upright. Amazing. Right? If you want to go to the next level, you can say, well, how does it work? And it works with exactly the same way. The spin in that direction is that. Because it's spinning out, spinning in this direction outwards, the friction is in. So about the center of mass, which is on the left, in and around, it's anti-clockwise, so it's anti-clockwise, so it's down. So we get a couple, which is a thumb out, I think, is it on the screen? First finger to the left, second finger up. The couple, yes, it's going anti-clockwise, so it's up, and so the thumb goes in, so you get clockwise resultant couple.